What up, what up, what up? It's your boy Dave B. You watching Dave Beyond TV, where we go beyond the everyday bullshit that people be consuming on a day-to-day basis. And I wanted to go live real quick, just breaking down some astrology before, what I'm saying, before the moon goes into Leo. So I made a video talking about kind of like the energy of Scorpio season. And it's been kind of coming to my attention, the shift and transition from uh Libra into Scorpio. I explained in that video how, of course, that Libra energy, doing relating to things and needing communication and things to be clear, right? For clarity, for the sake of that, having a better understanding overall about, like, what's going on and what you're actually relating to, how important that was moving into Scorpio, where things were becoming deep, intimate, and it's now more than ever more important to kind of understand what you are connected to. You know what I'm saying? You can relate to something, but after a while, it's only after rapport is built that you start to develop a connection. And when you get that connection, it's all about keeping that space pure. But see, what gets in the way of that a lot of times is people's own individual issues with their own psyche. You know what I'm saying? And this is kind of where this energy comes into play. See, with the moon in Cancer, like I was saying, it's a reaction, response to emotions, feelings, specifically feelings of being safe. You know what I'm saying? What's actually safe to you. So the title of this video, and just the essence of the energy right now with this alignment, the sun in Scorpio, moon in Cancer, is you're either going to be deeply connected to yourself, right? And that's when you're in a safe space. That's when you feel, and again, you might not physically be going through something that's comfortable, but you feel connected with yourself in the sense of, trusting yourself and having that deep connection within yourself to know, and that was the whole theme of the previous new moon, the new moon in Libra, the full moon in Aries. It was all built around your relationship with yourself. You know what I'm saying? It could have played out externally as your way of engaging with others, but one thing you got to keep in mind is that it starts with you. So if you're not connecting and relating to yourself, right, everything you do externally, it might look cool on the surface. You might be able to get away with certain things at first, but eventually it reflects, and people can, I'm not even going to say people can tell you based upon how you try to relate and engage. Something's going to be off. And, we all have our own individual perception and thing that we're dealing with on a personal level. So that's often going to get in the way, because you got to keep in mind the first house is opposite the seventh. So everything that we're not with on a personal level internally with our own self is going to be reflected through either who we engage with or just our ability to be able to relate to things outside of ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And there's that saying that everybody you encounter on some level is a of you. And the thing is, it goes much deeper than that. On the surface level, it could look like, oh, this, is not going to look like a direct mirror. A lot of times, what you relate to ends up being a reflection of you based upon how that thing ages with you. But also, there's triggers that happen based upon your own experiences, traumas you might have went through that will respond to other people outside of you in a way. And it's like, it's not that another person is playing out a reflection of you, but it's your perception and your idea of a situation is uh, skewed or altered based upon what you've been through and how you see things you've developed for yourself. So again, and this gets into kind of this part where, when we're dealing with all this water energy, the first thing people want to bring up or cling to is intuition. Oh, I got a gut feeling about this, and I feel. Shout out to Solar Systems, because he had said something really dope on IG, and he was like, a lot of people talk about a gut feeling when they unhealthy. You know what I'm saying? And even further than that, people talk about intuition, perception, or let's say you got a lot of things that have gone on subconsciously that have led to you being. Again, whether you've been through trauma, whether you've been whatever you've been through, these things alter your natural feeling, right? They alter your subconscious awareness, and if you're not in your own subconscious, reflecting on yourself, doing the shadow work and uncovering certain things within you that lead to you having a different perception or a skewed view of the world, guess what? That intuition is going to be slightly off. You know what I'm saying? Your intuition going to be kind of, it's not going to be something. And the thing is, there's a difference between intuition and a self-fulfilling prophecy. A lot of times based upon what's already fine. You know, again, let's face it, most people don't have healthy practices of clearing their mind. Most people don't have healthy practices of even understanding their own subconscious world and what's in there that's contaminating the purity of who they are, right? And we know that all the identity that you take on, a lot of times that ego you develop, if you're not clear on what's going on within that, the ego you develop is going to basically be a layer on top of whatever you're lying to yourself about, you know. And a lot of times people do that line to create safety, and all these things kind of come back to safety. And that's kind of why this combination of energy will make you, if you're not on the side of, if you're not looking within yourself, and this is why even in the last title I said transmute or die, is because we understand a form of death. When I say that, it's a form of transforming, but death in the sense of, you know, you not, it's death from lack of power and control. You know, at some point or another, things catch up. You know what I'm saying? So you can make it look like one thing on the surface, but things eventually catch up. So it's like the need to transmute your way of, it really in a lot of ways your way of relating to one thing, transmuting that into something that's more in alignment with your truth, or you're gonna end up getting transformed based upon things out of your control, based upon you just being in a place that is like kind of wrong place, wrong time. You know, when you got the wrong things on your mind, not addressing certain things, you're going to be, like I said, the ego you develop is going to play out as you acting in certain ways that attract certain crowds. Not only that, leads you to certain places in which you just automatically don't fit in, because it's like the ego you develop it wasn't sourced from your truth. It was instead sourced from your fear. It was sourced from things that you protect yourself against. This is how even they talk about like insecurities, your inner security, and you know, all of this comes from a lack of being able to trust yourself, a lack of feeling safe within yourself. And the thing is, you know what I'm saying, when you really think about it, we live in a time where not only are these things not taught, but they grow and develop into bigger problems later on. You know what I'm saying? And these types of things, these reverberate. So you'll be trying to engage with certain things, but what's at the core of it is you aren't really being true to self because you don't trust yourself. And so that lack of trust within yourself creates that ego. And that ego, whenever you're putting things out into the world, you open the space and portal for things to come back to you in that same, again, it might not look exactly how you put it out, but you end up experiencing that. And it really comes down to just the simple, you being true to yourself when you express it, or you expressing things out of fear based on you trying to protect something you're insecure about, or you trying to protect uh, a mentality that you have that, again, you can say, oh, you don't believe, like you can say all day you believe in yourself, you believe something, but like the difference between creativity and delusion. You know, delusion is when you're expressing something or putting something out as a perception, but put out isn't quite reflected based upon, like you can say you believe in something, but if you're not doing the work and acting out in the energies that actually push that out, then you're delusional. It's like you have to follow through on what you say something is. And if you say you believe in something, you have to figure out ways to follow through. And that shit, it's not easy. You know, it's easy to say and it sounds simple to comprehend. But in practice, you know, every day is going to be another thing that presents itself as something that, again, forces you to make a decision based upon, again, you're either working in your truth or you're working in your fear and things like that. And so, you know, with this combination of energy, you know, what I'm getting at, like I said before, the title is you're either deeply connected to self or you're deeply connected to fear, doing things out of fear, intuition leading you places out of fear. You know what I'm saying? That gut feeling is not actually your truth. It's gut feeling due to you're scared of something. You know what I'm saying? You got anxiety. You don't have ways of self-regulating to the point where you can make a clear decision, you know, especially in today's time feels like it's speeding up. And the thing about it is, you know, it very well might, but you have also the power to slow it down by being able to, first of all, control your world. You know what I'm saying? And that's really what we got to understand with this water energy. It got out of hand very quickly. Water is most associated with chaos. You know, you can't control the current. The current is going a certain way. At some point, you have to surrender into that, right? But it's not about always succumbing to your reactions, but it's understanding these in which things are flowing. And so that's kind of the difference. You know, it's not about being reactive and going with the flow and sense of not taking accountability and not taking authority over your life, but it's about understanding the natural flow of things and how your perception of where you're going in that current is dependent upon your own connection to yourself. You know what I'm saying? So this is all about, this whole season is about deepening that connection with yourself. And it starts here where a lot of things can get mixed up because based upon that safety level, right, within yourself, based upon your own insecurities, this could lead you right now to start to develop this perception as, you know, more so something like, I got to protect myself. And when you start moving and making things based upon, I got to protect myself, that automatically puts you in a mind state or a frame of mind that's about reaction. It makes you highly aware. Like when you're in that lower nature of yourself, this is the most reactive you will ever be, because basically you think about survival mode. When you're in survival mode, you're hyper fixated on everything outside of you. And this is that kind of the core issue. You're so hyper fixated on everything outside of you that you lose touch, you lose connection with what's going on internally. Because in survival mode, it's like you're looking at immediate danger. And a lot of times people develop a survival mode mentality based upon just the regular pressures, but also what they've been through as children and they've grown up. You know, a lot of people went through things as children and never really connected back with themselves to develop safety. And society itself makes it damn near impossible to really even have the time to identify what's causing that. And we live in a time where, again, uh, short term gratification, all kinds of things are available to get addicted to. You know what I'm saying? Again, social media in and of itself. Well, I've been saying, understanding it as commercial media helps keep that boundary between what you're getting into versus, you know, when you're looking at that thing in social media, a lot of times people are yearning for connection on these platforms. And the thing is, when you understand that you're yearning for connection and that you're only on these apps and these things and anything you're addicted to, it's because you're trying to connect it, and whether it be with others, but true connection can only come from when you're safe within yourself and you're able to present your true self. Because when you're safe within yourself, you're able to present your true self without that survival mode mentality that's going to always have you in protection. So instead of being who you are, you're going to be so hyper fixated on what's outside of you or a potential, right? Whether it is or not, you're going to be so hyper fixated on that whatever you present is going to be skewed or altered based upon you being strategic. And this Scorpio energy, anybody with a Scorpio sun, moon, ascendant, even if you got like a planet or even planets in the eighth house, this is how y'all, right? And when I say y'all, I mean really all of us, because we all have an eighth house. Everybody got an eighth house. Everybody's in a chart where Scorpio resides. So when you're understanding you and your natures, right, and how you move and maneuver in the world, there, you know, wherever that soft spot is for you is, once that's pressured and touched, that's going to make you hyphated on potential threats. And so instead of being genuine, you're going to be moving out of strategy, because again, the body, this is why as a spirit in a body, you have to understand that at times it's important to override what your body might be jerk reaction trying to do, because the body main goal is protect itself. But the spirit understands that the body protecting itself isn't always healthy for growth, for expansion, isn't even always necessary. You know what I'm saying? Because what might be a knee jerk reaction might be to get you in a situation that, again, it's like an animal. Animal, if you trap it, or let's say you can trick an animal based upon its natural reactions to things. Think about how people trap you know, rabbits and things like that, or anything, like how in the back of the day they might have, like, let's say you trying to, so you got a piece of food with a box and a little stick, and so when the animal unconsciously is going after that based upon its nature, it gets trapped, you know, or how even in certain, I think some animals, you can scare an animal into running right into a trap. So think about that when you're moving in survival mode, you're in your moralistic state. So your body, in its attempt to protect itself, can put itself in harm's way by just not having the awareness of a better idea. You know what I'm saying? Where like an animal set off a trap based upon movement. Now, you know, an animal gotta move, doesn't know, like the difference between the animal gonna move regardless because it's just all in nature versus if a human being into something, they know how to be aware of something. And again, I might want to fight or flight, right? I might want to run, but a human being can have enough awareness to be like, well, it make more sense to maybe stand still and wait for something to pass due to the ability to discern, you know what I'm saying? But to have logic, what do we associate with? Air. What is air? Air is like even with the breath. So when you're in high anxiety states, right, you're not breathing properly either. You're saying is rushing. Everything is moving so fast because what's happening is you're breathing super fast, so you can get oxygen to the brain, right? But it's not until you slow it down that you're able to actually process what's going on and make a more informed decision. Because when you're operating off of that, it's like you're losing so much breath. That's why, like, if you're, you know, people who go through panic attacks, they have you breathe into a bag, or back in the day, they had you and that is trying to regulate and slow down that breath so you can calm down. And then when you calm down, now you're using more logic. Now you're able to tap into your mind, a more informed decision based upon what's going on rather than just the reaction, which might be the panic mode, which might be you huffing and puffing. And again, you're losing so much oxygen because it's more so the oxygen's leaving, but what's getting filled up that is like adrenaline, all the things that allow your kind of fire harder energies to start to kick in. Basically, your natural instincts, your aggression, your ability to fight, and things like that. That's why people in adrenaline have so much strength, but they're not necessarily thinking. So they might do something that, again, logically, why we go after that, right? Somebody pull a gun on you and you rush them, you know what I'm saying? You rush them, tackle them to the ground. That's not the smartest thing to do. But in that time, that's what's going in your head. You know what I'm saying? Or again, nothing's going on in your head. It's purely just adrenaline and you in the rush. So you either going to face that thing, fight, or you're going to fly. You're going to, use that same strength, that fire, water energy to give you the strength and to dip, you know what I'm saying, to run on something or get out of harm's way. And as you slow down, now you can breathe and assess and review what's going on to be able to be like, oh, okay, that's how that happened. I see that now. I noticed that. In the moment, you're not really thinking of that. Now, I say all that just to say, coming back into this state, right? You might not be in a externally, mode like I said before that example. You might not have a gun, but based upon what is stressing you out at the moment and what you might be going through in your own, when people think about what they're gonna do about their live situation, when people think about even their relationships and their safety in that and the future of their lives, this is like basically like things that develop almost the same feeling as far as anxiety and fear that having a gun pulled to your head is. But it's like I can't say it's worse, but it is. It's a slow death. It's a slow burn because that anxiety can build up when it's stored in the body. Again, this is you having like a mini panic attack versus like having a gun in your head. That might be a panic attack that's presented to you and right there, right then and there. But a lot of times we build anxiety based upon what we're going to do next, what's going to be the future and our safety in a certain situation, right? Whether or not we're being treated or being betrayed by a partner and things like that, whether it be business, romantic, platonic, anything like that. You know, how everybody's mentality, especially nowadays, is kind of conditioned to be on some more like solo stuff and wanting to be secluded. People think that's safe, but even that in and of itself builds more anxiety and more stress because really the key to all this is figuring out how to trust yourself and continuing to relate because part of relating nation things like that, those are things that at some point does help to regulate going on internally. I think it's something about this world, right? Coming into this world where it's key to be able to take what's in my mind and share it with the individual in order for it to be connected and exist. We all got so much going on internally, but not enough outlets to those things out. Whether you create things, you're artist, or again, whatever you do, regardless, it's like this is why connection is so having people around you that you can trust, that you can communicate with, that you can build with. Right, building is more so on the back end of things, like after but just on a very core level, it's like everybody wants somebody they can talk to, everybody that they can feel safe around, and thing is, of course, we want to feel safe within ourselves, but it doesn't stop just with self. You know what I'm saying? It's like something about this world. It's important to relate, and part of relating, it does actually help you regulate things. And I think it has something to do with just that fact that we come into this world with things within. We come into this world with so much to give, so much of ourselves to give, and living a life in which you don't hold everything in. At the end of life, you want to feel like you got it all out. And by all out, I just mean like your ideas or your thoughts, what you felt about things. The number one thing they'll tell you that leads to certain diseases and cancers and stuff like that is just holding in stuck emotions. You know what I'm saying? When emotions are stuck, even down to health, a lot of times most health problems come you retaining too much and not having a healthy release of things, like it be through bloating. Other forms of diabetes is when certain things it's like something is swelling, something is inflamed, something is holding too much of something and doesn't have a healthy release. You know what I'm saying? Air being trapped and not being able to escape. So it creates these spaces within that, again, just completely, all of these things. That's why it all comes down to getting things out. Now, get into the astrology, right? So, with the moon in Cancer, of course, like I said before, it's all about safety. Now, certain are going to be interacting with this. Part of it is the trine with Saturn, so moon Saturn. Well, I talked about the grand trine in the last video. And again, this is where we might, everything is more sensitive. So our senses are up, which might make you feel even more uncomfortable, make you feel more unsafe. The best practice to do is figure out ways to self-regulate yourself and get more comfortable with just things being uncomfortable. And that again, how you go about that is going to be determined by what you're into. I was just, finding some kind of outlet, but also it comes down to being able to trust yourself. So, identify these things that are triggers for you emotionally that lead you to certain conclusions about the world or certain reactions to things. Understand that because a lot of times when we're in certain things, it might be a perception of a lack of control. But some people, when they get in panic mode, that's their first go-to. Let me try to control things outside of me. Again, the best thing you could do, the best suggestion I can give is figure out, first of all, what's causing that emotional spark, what's causing that emotional, initial reaction. And as you understand and identify that, what to start to figure out how to de-escalate that panic, de-escalate the cause of that trigger. And this is going to put you in a mentality that's starting to work on your ability to respond to things rather than just react. Because chances are you're going to react extreme. That's what Scorpio does. Scorpio is so deeply invested. If it, the whole Scorpio dichotomy comes down to fear versus power and control, loss of power and control, fear, and the need to, whether you want to say enact revenge, associate Scorpio with getting revenge, holding a grudge, all of these things come from just fear. So it's like you have to really be able to see and identify what's causing that. And once you see what's causing that, you can start to see and detach from what your initial reaction might be and understand what you rather do. Because operating more so in a higher octave or in a healthier mind state, you have more authority and control regardless. Now, it might feel like you don't have control over, but it's true. It's like you don't have control over anything outside of just you. So the best thing you can do is gather yourself, and that way you're making choices, decisions, you're responding to stimuli rather than allowing that stimuli control you through your knee-jerk reaction. You know what I'm saying? Panic modes type stuff. And so that's going to become more and more of a thing. We coming off of Libra where it's like, again, whatever you was involved in, there was maybe some form of harmony being established, some form of clarity or being shown and presented. We're going into a time where you're going to start to feel more of that Martian energy, where you're going to start to feel pretty alone in whatever you're going through. Fall time. This is the part of fall where the sun already fell. It was falling during Libra. This is where now the sun is in the dark. So we're learning how to move in the dark. And part of moving in the dark, if you don't know how to, if you don't trust your steps in that dark, you're gonna panic. You're gonna think everything is a threat, and the way you maneuver through that is gonna be highly different than if you were to trust yourself more. If you had more connection with yourself, that allowed you to. Because it's almost like when you sit in the dark for a while, right? Your eyes adjust. So think about if you was in the dark and you panic, you probably gonna just try to run. And by running in the dark, you're gonna run into walls, you're gonna stumble on things, you can fall, stub your toe, you're gonna bump into things. You might run right into something that knock you out. You know what I'm saying? Run into a wall, boom, now you knocked out. Versus if you turn the lights off and you just wait a minute, right? Let your eyes adjust. Now you know how to navigate that dark room. You might not be able to see everything, but you got enough clarity within yourself. You can kind of make out shapes, forms, and you might be able to navigate through that space safely. That's what Scorpio always presents to us. It's like, how do we navigate in the dark? But navigating in the dark, right? Yeah, physically that's like a metaphor, but internally, or to relate this to damn right there, to relate this more so to what's going on internally, that's the same thing as you doing shadow work, or you addressing, identifying, understanding what subconsciously is going on with you. Whether that's you, again, whatever it is, whether it be more than likely looking at things that incite fear, and how that fear influences your conscious decisions, how that fear basically dirties up your lens, your ability to see things and interpret things in the world. You know what I'm saying? So you want to make sure that whatever you do, right, you take it upon yourself to make that the first priority. Within yourself to get clarity and understanding on what it is, first of all, that's even occurring, that's causing you to react in that way. And then this is going to lead you to develop a connection to your intuition. Because overall, if you know what's already influencing you, again, response rather than reaction. And that is always more powerful in the end, because response is close to intent. And again, we in Scorpio season. So at the end of it, the core of it, it's Martian is about intention. It's about it's about willpower. So how are you directing your willpower? Remember, in Aries season, the sun is exalted and Mars is on the forefront. It's getting everything out in the open. It's brave, but it's brave because maybe how naive it is, right? As an energy. I'm not saying if you are Aries, you're naive, but the energy is so full of that youthful energy. It's just ready to get out and do it. The Scorpio version is that same Martian, but after they done been through some shit. So after they done been through some shit, that Aries energy or that Martian energy is a lot more either strategic and cautious. It's precise. You know what I'm saying? I think somebody else said the word precision. And that's what it really comes down to with Scorpio energy. It's about being more directed with your intention rather than the Aries was just ready to get into any and everything. Now that we in the fall time, we don't really have as much energy distributed everywhere. And it ain't even about that at this point. It's more about, again, when we even talk about ulterior motives or deep passions, this is getting more uh, precise with our direction with certain things and how to express ourselves and how we want to move and maneuver with things. Now, some of the energies we're going to be encountering. So, and see what's helping that too. Before I get off of the Scorpio energy and the moon trining the sun, is it's a grand. Or I started saying the moon trining Saturn, but the point is a grand water trine with the sun, Mercury, in Scorpio, Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, and Mars and the moon in Cancer. Again, whatever you haven't been addressing on an internal emotional level is the very same thing that is causing a disruption maybe into your flow. Again, whether you're experiencing high levels of fear, check yourself on that. You know what I'm saying? Really sit with yourself and be like, okay, identify it. What is causing this fear in me? Where is this coming from? Because we got all the tools to look within that. And a lot of it is going to come from the planets involved in this grand trine. It's a gift, even though you might not want to deal with those emotions, it's a gift in and of itself. But before you move and make a decision based upon your gut reaction or your intuition, identify what that intuition is actually. Is that intuition, or is this conjuring up a decision or a response based upon, or a reaction? Intuition or a reaction based upon my stress levels, based upon what I'm unsafe about. Because the moon in Cancer is really what complexes all this. It makes it more complex. The moon in Cancer, it's almost like when you're dealing with a Cancer energy, the moon is home there. That's even more complex because the moon is super comfortable doing something that's very, for lack of better word, very, I don't want to say necessarily shady, but it's kind of like when you're protecting yourself. Think about you in self protection mode. When you're doing things based upon your own self protection, you're willing to cut throats. You're willing to do anything possible for the same thing. Like a mama bear witness when it comes to our space and how protected we feel. So that combined with Scorpio, it will go to some very deep extreme establishing that safety. So you want to make sure that you're planning the, knowing that where you're directing that energy is actually where you're going. That's why, again, at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, am I deeply connected to self? This is my true self. This is my true direction, my true intentions. Or am I connected to fear and I'm doing things based upon saving my own ass or feeling more comfortable in my space? And see, depending on what you're going through, when I say high octave, low octave, it's not about good or bad. It's about understanding your own space and what you're going through and what makes the most sense for you. Because you might be in a situation where playing out the lower octave, you realize, damn, I was so comfortable in something I was relating to the point where now I really do have to go to the extreme to establish my safety. But it's about at least taking enough time to be clear on why and what, not so much why, but what is it that I'm actually trying to respond to, versus just jumping out the window based upon a little uncomfortability. Because you might, on the flip side, you might be in an uncomfortable situation that's triggering you, but it's trying to, it's almost like encouraging you to transmute that stress into motivation, transmute that anxiety into a plan of action and intention, transmute and transform your reaction into a better decision and growth and expansion. That's an inconjunction to where the sun is. So we misunderstand the wise thing to do right now based upon what we might emotionally be in. So that's just in and of itself. And Mercury is in conjunction this energy too. So we misunderstand also how to analyze our experience, what we're picking up and what we might be paying attention to and highlighting might not actually be the core, the source, or the point of whatever it is that we're experiencing or what we're doing, what we're participating in. So to assess the energy, assess what's going on within you first, and then understand how what's going on outside of you is applying to what's going on. Because regardless, you have to, right now, I feel like the best thing is like everybody got to figure out how to keep a level head right now, and that level head is you balancing. I like to look at it as, there's four elements. You have to figure out your balance of all these things. Some people, based upon the energy they resonate more with, are more leaning on one element or two elements versus having an even distribution of all of them. Like you might be more water fire, so you lean on more that emotional end, in which makes sense of what can be communicated. You might be more earth air. You might be. It's like you have to really get deep within yourself to understand how you're, what's causing how you rock. Basically, it's like, what I'm saying, like rock the boat shit. It's like you gotta, okay, I lean more in favor of logic and might need to be more sensitive at times in order to balance and counteract bias with, basically, because it really does come down to emotional bias, or because you know what I'm saying. And I say that not to for you to call something is wrong. You got to stay true to self, but staying true to self also, it doesn't mean being it doesn't balance. Like, everything needs the balance. So being true to self, there also needs to be incorporation of some form of balance and understanding, like what you're even working with to get to a clear level head with the four elements. How do you create level and how do you level it out? inside. You might need a little bit of sensitivity, like you lean more logic and practicality. You might need a little bit more sensitivity and emotional understanding just to level out certain things for you to make a more clear and informed decision. Now, back into the transits and things like that. So with the moon in Cancer, this is squaring. So we're getting help. We have to be that trine because you know what I'm saying. Being that it's a grand water trine, it's an important thing. We got a lot of elements or a lot of planets in water. So emotional states and what you're reacting is highly important right now. But the moon being there, we're hyper fixated on reacting to those things. So before Cancer, the moon in Cancer goes into Leo, where it gets fixated and it feels the need to express, right? And that's a whole other conversation that we're gonna get into. But before we leave that, understand that we got some help. So, take the time to slow down and just that sensitivity, that Cancer, start to understand what's interacting, what's causing your wave to be, shifted this way or your current to shift that way. Now, but we have the help of getting more understanding on what we're reacting to in the first place and what's making us sensitive, what's making us insecure, and what we want to connect to. Because it's still Cancer is a cardinal energy. So whenever the moon is there, it's our kind of responsibility to initiate that connection. Once we identify, first of all, what we're reacting to and what we would rather connect to, and put more so effort into initiating that connection with what we'd rather connect to rather than just reacting to what we're not connected to yet. And because when we're looking at what we're not connected to yet, this is what causes us to feel insecure because we feel like, man, we might never get it. So we feel that uncomfortability and we be like, oh, damn, I'm never going to get there. When you stressing about something, but you got the tool sitting right next to you. Like if you needed to dig a hole, you got a shovel right next to you. You're like, damn, the hole not already dug. Damn, I'm screwed. You got a shovel right next to you, and you didn't already gave up because you didn't yet get that thing. So it's like with the moon and cardinal energy, you might be insecure, panic, unconnection yet, but it's in your hands. You have the tool, the cardinal water sign, to initiate that connection. You just got to be willing to initiate it. And so not everybody wants to initiate things, but it's part of life. You know what I'm saying? It's part of every now and then. It's a time and place for everything. There's going to be a time that you could be fixated in something, right? When you can just connect to what's already there, but it won't get there if you don't initiate. You know what I'm saying? So don't be afraid to initiate or ability outside of you to initiate things because you're always going to miss out on things if you don't know how to, whether it's speak up for yourself or whether you don't know how to establish a tone. That's just a part of life, whether, no matter what body you in. Now, the one's also doing swearing Chiron. So learning how to feel about mistakes and things like that. Again, we should be over mistakes. Or I can't say we should be over mistakes because these things come and go. You know what I'm saying? There's always going to be a new mistake. So there's always going to be a new thing you're looking at like, damn, why did I do that? But you can't let it stop you. That's the main thing. You have to continue to learn from these things. But this is where we might be sensitive again about mistakes that we made. We might be looking at those things as the cause of us being in a dark space, right? Because the sun in conjuncts Chiron as well. So we might misunderstand how to act or transform ourselves to grow and separate from previous mistakes. So that's just part of the process. That's part of learning how to be, you know, be yourself, with how you're gonna move and maneuver and grow through certain things that you've done in the past or mistakes that you are interpreting now as mistakes. But you can't let that stop you. You know what I'm saying? It's like you gotta just take it on the chin and like keep pushing. But depending on what that mistake is, you might be ruminating on it. Try not to ruminate. Again, the thing is, like I said before, for the season, transmute or die. It's like you really got to understand it. You don't push yourself to get over certain emotional hurdles and let go of certain grudges and a bias, you will find yourself continuing that cycle in repeat way that you might even not even recognize. I've been how Scorpio season is going to be one of those times where, uh, everything you've been building up is going to be put to the test, and it's going to be really looking at what enough lessons, whether or not you've been through enough things to be able to make those decisions, those hard choices, those hard decisions, those tough things that when you're looking in the mirror, you going back and forth with yourself. It's like the vision of what you're trying to establish for your life got to be bigger than whatever you're dealing with in order for you to commit to that in spite of, again, not getting the gratification needed. That's why they say dream big, because if your vision, if your dream ain't big enough or your goals ain't big enough, you always going to come up with another excuse not to go forward. When you got a big goal, a big dream, a big vision, on one end it might scare you, it might terrify you, and you want to reach that goal. But when you establish a healthier sense of self and connection, I think having a big goal, big mission, big dream, what it does is it lessens your ability to make an excuse when pursuing that, because in order to fill that position, it's going to require more of you. And so what happens is, within yourself, you muster up more strength. Now that's in a positive end. Not everybody responds to things like that, but you got to decide for yourself whether or not you ready to take on that responsibility. And a lot of that, so it's that Pluto being in Capricorn right now is a sextile with the sun. So we can be right now to transfer that's necessary to wait. Is, like I said before, just because it's an opportunity, you can easily let that pass based upon what I was talking about in the beginning, for not trusting yourself, not understanding that. And trusting yourself is just like with trust with other people. It's a it's a dance. Some days you're gonna be questioning, like, can I really? You have to figure out how to self-regulate. And again, it's all about controlling the mind. As a spirit and a body, you're in this direction. It's going to move you in that direction. But your spirit always got to keep those guide rails. Your spirit always got to keep that bigger vision in. You can say, okay, yeah, I might want to panic. Let me breathe. Let me get some more air, logic. I'm not in panic mode. Like, a good mantra now is to constantly remind yourself, if something is not physically trying to kill me, I am not in panic mode. So let me stop allowing mind to create the illusion of anxiety. And again, you might have very real things on your ass, like bills. Again, look, I get it. Bills. You might have kids, and you thinking about the future, what I'm going to do with the kids, what I'm going to do with this, what I'm going to do with that. But you have to give yourself enough space in between when you fear, to identify, to first establish yourself, gather yourself, and give you enough. It's like, when I say give space from the fear, it's like you have to allow yourself enough space to make a decision and not just react to things. Because the truth of the matter is, it's all in your mind. You know, the stress and what you're worrying about is all in your mind. So, like I said before, if something's not physically trying to take you out, kill you, you have enough space to slow things down. And again, you might feel, when you're in an anxious state, you're worried about this, bills coming up, whatever it is, be in a time, you're gonna speed up time. You know what I'm saying? When we worry about something, we low key speed up time. You can figure out how to self regulate and give you, when you're, I don't want to always allude things to something like breathing, but that's actually a realistic thing you can do that can benefit, or that can help, you know, at least for down anxiety. But see, here's the thing too. A lot of times, unhealthy habits, the way that they develop themselves. For instance, looking to desires, other forms of dopamine hits, whether it's your addiction to social media platforms because you're still looking at it as social rather than a business platform. Because see, and keep that in mind too. Social media as a business, what keep you on the app? So they're gonna give you hits of dopamine to keep you addicted to scrolling. It's like, really think about some of this stuff. You might think it's innocent, but all the time, again, a lot of times people respond to their anxiety by getting on Twitter, by getting on Instagram. And again, it's like a weird cycle of spiking your anxiety, but giving you the illusion that you calming yourself down, because you can scroll, see a funny video, but then you scroll and see somebody doing something that you wish you was doing. So it's like, it's a very logical game, and you really got to peep it. That's why I've been pushing that shit. Just understanding, like, look, it's commercialized, bro. Everybody trying to sell you something so they can get their money right. But the platform you on, their business plan is to keep you on the platform, keep you addicted to it. So they're gonna feed you things that, like, honestly, if we getting real deep with it, you put a trick that they did when it comes to, even, like, I don't even want to be considered a content creator, because if you think about it, right, people create content for the likes, for the algorithm. If you're not, like, I get it, because you still got to play the game, right? Posting online and stuff like that, creating content is dope if you can funnel it to a business and that business is established in real life. And it's cool that you can make money online. That's cool. That's productive, right? But to develop the idea or the notion that being a content creator means you're making some form of getting some kind of growth or something like that. You really got to think if you're not converting those likes and those engagements into sales or something that can be established and recognized in real life, whether you're throwing events and things like that, or you're engaging with the audience, you got to really ask yourself, am I doing what I'm supposed? Like, am I really? Is this the best use of my time? you know, I would encourage people to more so develop skills and use those skills. You can display those skills online, posting stuff, posting your work. I'm not talking negatively about that. I'm not even talking negatively, but I'm just bringing awareness to some things that I just be noticing in my own space. It's like, well, you get a common person who's content creating, but they're not even thinking on terms of how to convert those likes and that engagement into something that can help it benefit them in real life, whether that be some bread in your pocket or a group of individuals around you who you can build with collaboration and things like that. So that's just again, I should go deeper. I plan to go deeper into that concept, but when it comes to just these labels and things like these overnight labels, all of a sudden this is a popular phrase or popular title. I tend to stay away from those things because it's sanctioned. It starts to become a box that they can now identify a group of people where you might not be a content creator. You might create content, but you are so much more than whatever somebody can label you as. And it's easier to go with a label if you're playing a game because it helps others categorize you and it helps you jump into certain algorithms and pockets and markets. But you really, I encourage everybody just think a little, think further beyond that stuff because it's more to life than what is being presented. And I got this topic for a video too I want to talk about because I was looking into some other information and how because we've been talking about robots and stuff like that and AI and how that's going to replace a lot of jobs. But if you really like, there's some studies going on right now that's really talking about how in I think it's like 2030 something, the 9 to 5 job ain't gonna be a thing. 42% of 9 to 5 jobs gonna be basically not obsolete. You're not gonna be able to like the idea that you're gonna be able to work for somebody and get a check. That and you think about that, right? If people can't work and get a check, what's the next thing? Well, if money is still involved, they're gonna need what's called like a government stipend. So think about it. You getting money from the government. What does that make you? That makes you highly dependent on the government system and how they operate for the sake of your ability to eat. That automatic enforcement of compliance. You know what I'm saying? It's stuff. That's why I party in. This is some real shit. You need to get with some people and build a new system for you to be self-sufficient or sufficient in, or a sustainable system where you can be connected to people who are willing to build with you. You know what I'm saying? Where y'all can continue to build and things like that. Because things are going to be looking very different in the next 10, 20 years. You know what I'm saying? 35, 2035. That's 10 years from now. And 2025, like I said, they're going to start dishing out, rolling out internet restrictions. So, right now, it's got to either be deep and get in the bag. Right now, it ain't even about getting the bag. It's about you figuring out where your is developing skills that's going to matter. But it's also about connecting with skills and individuals. Basically, it's you developing your skills and then your system. That's all Aquarius is really about. It's, Uranus. So it's unique, connected through communication and common goal idea, right? That's the air, fixated air, and then it's Saturnian, a system made in place where everybody's unique role influences each other, and it's a building, moving forward process. I mean, again, these are things that why anxiety is all up in you. I get why. And people who not even aware of what I just said, they feel it though. That this not the same world they've been in. It's not the same shit. It's some other stuff. And again, it's okay when you have to you have. And when I say it's okay, I mean your awareness of it now. It's like it's because I don't want to say it's okay and soothe the minds of people who are not doing something now. Because it's not, if you not doing shit, you're not gonna see no result. You're gonna be on that government stipend. You're gonna be dependent on somebody else's system. So this is not some kumbaya shit. This is not some feel good pandering stuff where I'm like, oh, yo, be okay, and you just gotta, lay back and trust yourself and be yourself. Honestly, it won't be okay if you ain't making it won't be okay if you're not taking life serious, your life, if you're not getting up and putting effort towards developing yourself and getting your own mind right. And also not just getting your mind right on some selfish shit, but getting your mind right so that communicate with real people. Because that's becoming a lost art based upon just, and honestly, I can't say that because I feel like it's like you can't lose. Like, I guess if you grow up and you are sheltered and all your interactions are online, of course you're gonna lose touch with how to communicate and connect with people. But I think it's just, I mean, matter of fact, I guess I can say that it's becoming a lost art to communicate effectively, to deal with other personalities in reality and in real life. Because think about all the people who jump online and move like trolls. That's a mental illness to the degree of these people. It might have started as a joke, and some people might be on some joke stuff, but there might be a great deal of people who really think that's their way of connecting. Again, on these social media platforms, their form of connection is skewed. We've been saying like, oh, social media not like real life and stuff, and it really is a distinction between internet stuff and real life stuff. So it's like, it very well is a lost art to know how to communicate and engage with others, um, from all different age groups, even race debates and race talks and stuff like that. How they get people so rooted in race mentality, or if not race, what's the other one? Men versus women and shit like that. Because a lot of these, what we would consider psyops, are just ways to keep people separated. Because if people stay separated, nobody's going to be able to come together and build nothing that's substantial enough to be considered a new system of moving, a community that actually is self-sufficient in a way that is substantial enough to compete. And it's not even about competition with government systems, but an alternative. Even presenting an alternative is it the more and more we have things that's dividing people, the more and more it's going to be virtually impossible to do that. You know what I'm saying? The only way it can be done is if individuals like us keep connecting and doing things in real life that make that a possibility. You know what I'm saying? But it's deep, like it's deep. So, uh, like I said before, I get why people are in the space they in right now mentally, because you can look outside and see the shit burning. Again, you can panic, fight it, and then by fighting it, I mean exhaust yourself and making basically putting a target on your back. I'm not talking negatively to anybody who feels the spirit and wants to, talk shit about that system. Again, do what you do, how you do it. But if you're out of fear, if that's truly you, then cool, because there's a place for that. If fear though, because you don't know what else to do, so you're gonna, then that's when it becomes a issue on a different level. You know what I'm saying? That's where it becomes a thing where you might find yourself all alone in that fight, because when you're doing things out of fear and it's not your true self, it's just something about it. The way the energy just is displayed, it isolates you. You know what I'm saying? The only way we can establish connection is through vulnerability, through being true to ourselves and letting that show. But any forms of ego flash, you're using your ego that's protecting you to display a certain side of you that's not really your true sentiment. What that turns to is people just not knowing how to connect to it. And it's not even something that people can physically point out and say, you're doing this wrong. It's just a natural energy thing. You're not going to build that influence because that ego can only go so far. So if you're sponsored by somebody and you got the money and the accolades, yeah, people might themselves up top. And if they are still not being true to self, they automatically breed and attract competition that will, at the drop of a dime, take them off that spot, ridicule them. That's why you see a majority of celebrities get to a position, but once they get to that position, people attacking, assassinating character, trying to break, individuals down, whether or not they know that individual or not. Now, you could look at that as like, oh, that's just how the game is, but other artists, some artists don't deal with that based upon them being considered competition is them inspiring others to want to be as great as as them. But smart individuals at that position, it's just the way it goes because subconsciously they might admire you, but they admire you as a threat. You know what I'm saying? Like it's weird, But and this is different than developing haters because people who are, of course, haters, they a lot of times have issues within themselves. They hate themselves, or they see something in you that they feel as though they deserve, and they feel as though they can't reach. But even in that, what I'm saying, those things, that's kind of a different conversation. But to move along, um, talking about the moon in Cancer, like I was saying, squaring Chiron, it's also squaring the North Node. So uh, learning how to trust our spiritual path, basically. We at this point where we know we have to transform to get there, and that's in conjunction to the Sun and the North Node. So misunderstanding how to act or transform towards our spiritual path, but the moon also squaring that energy. It's like cloudy, and the right thing to do might be clouded by be failing, not getting to that position, the lack of trust to be able to carry out that. So you have to be very, again, it's like almost like slow down for a second. Even with Mars being in Cancer still, Mars is almost in Leo. Slow down for a second just to make sure that your approach is correct. Because yeah, it's important to make moves and go, but if your approach is wrong, you don't kind of falls apart. It's about execution too. Have the best. So Mars and Cancer is like add some more nurturing to your direction, to your directions, so that you can be sure of yourself. Not to say you're not going for it now, but how you going for it now if you're still kind of again just in ways that are just unwise. When, yeah, make better decisions for yourself. Now, the moon in Cancer also is. Uh, let me see. So we talked about Aries. We talked about, oh yeah, the sextile in Uranus, moon in Cancer, sextile in Uranus. So this is the opportunity to be connected to your individuality, your uniqueness. Again, you can feel very isolated right now, very alone, especially coming off of Libra season where it seemed like you might have had friends, it seemed like you was relating to things, but here you are. It's almost like when you kick it with your friends, you be out with your friends, right? Great night, had great time, but then when the night comes to the end, you go home alone and you're there sitting with yourself. And so it's like that's kind of the energy that's coming from this sextile. But it could be beneficial if you if you allow that space to basically if you take it upon yourself to embrace who you are as an individual. If you're finding ways to embrace who you are as an individual, this journey that might feel like you're alone and isolated with, you can start to see the bigger picture. It's almost like taking care of yourself to be a better friend or to have better connections outside of you. Say you have to first be a friend with yourself, and knowing how to be by yourself and embrace that and know your individuality, identify that, connect to that. That makes you a more pleasant person to be around. That makes those moments with friends more enjoyable because you're coming to it fulfilled. When you come to your friends, your group with an empty cup, yeah, it's cool to get your cup filled. Like I said before, at the end of the night, when everybody go, here you are with an empty cup again, and it feels like you're basically yearning and desperate for the next time you and all your friends can kick it and stuff like that. So it's kind of like you have to learn how to be cool with your journey. You have to learn how to be cool as a unique individual. And again, all of this is contributing to what Pluto's dealing with. Like I was saying before, um, Pluto will eventually get into um, what you call it, Aquarius. And that's where it's going to be even more important for what we've been developing and dealing with to, it's like all the work we're doing, like I was just saying before, all of that is to be able to associate more in a more healthy way and in a more effective way, to be able to actually be in those communities, in those connections, in those organizations, and be a key part, be a key player. And when I say that, I don't mean that you got to do something spectacular, like, like how they say, like, everybody can't be an entrepreneur, everybody can't be this. What I'm saying is, it's not about trying to be uh, number one. It's about being one of one. You know what I'm saying? It's not trying to be number one or the head, the leader, or I got to do something crazy in the world to be important, or a purpose. I have to have a purpose so big and stuff like that. It's about being one of one. So even if your role is to support, just being a good support, being the best version of you is always going to be more important than you trying to be the best at something or the top of something or whatever misconception and develop. You know what I'm saying? It's about being one of one, not the one. The one is old outdated illusion. You can only be the one in your dream, the one in your mind. Selfishness, Aries, even Pisces to a degree. Because when we talk about dreams, that's why in dreams, it's your dream. Even if people in your dream, it's still your dream. It's only you. And you're the only one really responsible. You can blame somebody for feel a certain way, but you made yourself feel that way based upon how you interpreted and how you perceived it. So it's like, again, but it's about also understanding that separation and understanding you as an individual with your own mind. Nobody knows what's going on in here. You express or communicate it and create that bridge to another person's mind. Again, it's your responsibility to get what's internal out, to get who you are out. But if to get who you are out needs a shield or needs some kind of, you got to dress it up with ego, you got to make it look like this is where people run into misinterpretations. I thought you was this way, but you really that way. And again, there's a other layer where another person ought to work, and in order for it to translate and connect. But the more you know yourself and trust yourself, the more you can identify when someone is misinterpreting you, when someone is misinformed about you, misunderstand you. You know what I'm saying? So, that's just something to keep in mind. I don't know why the comment section ended up disappearing, but yeah. And shout out to C. But it, that's what happens. You know what I'm saying? That's what ends up going on. Hold on. Okay, yeah. So, different things that we might be encountering and dealing with, that another aspect I want to talk about. Yeah. So the moon also is going to be in case. What else? We talked about, Gemini too close. It could jump Mars. We talked about that. Just having sensitivity towards passions, but needing to nurture them more. We need to nurture our passions more. Virgo, nothing in Virgo for real. Libra, yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, Scorpio. We talked about the trine. Um, let's see, Scorpio. The only thing we have in Capricorn is Pluto. So we're dealing with, that's the thing too. The moon is getting closer to that Pluto opposition. So this is kind of where we're forced to, even on an emotional level, transform ourselves, about those insecurities. We have to kind of muster up the strength to continue to push through that. That's important right now. A pretty intense time for that emotional reaction, just because we're in those final degrees of right with your own emotional state, so that in Leo, don't put your foot in the mouth based upon expressing something causes more of a disruption based upon you doing it based upon, because the thing about it is Moon and Leo squares the sun in Scorpio. Now, I'm a Scorpio rising with a Leo, and there's going to be times in which you're going to want to, it's almost like you're not going to know whether to express something or not. And that can cause issues based upon, and not if you should express something or not, more so is about your ability to trust yourself. Because if it's something that you want to express, of course, there's times in which it's wiser to express something or wiser to not. But at the end of the day, you going back and forth with your mind on whether you should express this or not, it shows just a lack of trust. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like rooted in a lack of trust. And this is a very strong alignment too, kind of like tradition between energies, you know, the lion and the snake, or the, you know, the how like even in the Lion King, you know, you got Scar, it's kind of like that Scorpio figure. Then you got was it Mufasa? That's more that Leo energy where he's getting all the praise, but then you got the uncle behind him that's like, you know, kind of scheming and things like that. But internally, that plays out as there's something you want to express inside, but you're questioning on whether or not, like, am I going to be perceived? Am I going to, you know, what's going to happen? Is there threats? There might be threats. Shine my light if there's threats around, because, but all this does is create more tension within you, because there's things that if you were to express, you'd see that it really ain't as much as you thought it up to be. A lot of inner conflict that develops over the next couple of days based upon that Leo energy, Sun and Scorpio, not knowing, oh, should I express, should I get this off, or nah, I should keep quiet, I should just keep that to myself. And it's like, honestly, you know, I can't tell you which one is best for you, but you need to do whatever you got to sit with yourself to know what the right decision for you is going to be. Um, and of course, we'll talk about the elements of that. But the moon in Cancer also is going to be, um, yeah. So that's the opposition with. I was just talking about the opposition with Pluto. You know, so we have to go through some kind of emotional transformation or transmute what's holding us back emotionally, and making us insecure about expressing ourselves. Because if we are able to go into the moon in Leo with more self-trust and more confidence, even if we don't fully trust it, but we're working on it and we're testing things out, and we're willing to go through the uncomfortability, we're willing to go through the hard conversations for the sake of getting to a point where we can be more strong in that conviction, then it's worth it. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of the direction we want to be in. At least try, at least attempt to put yourself in that space. You feel me? And then of course the moon, yeah, then we got what, Aquarius and Pisces, and so that's about it. And we talked about you know, Saturn being involved in general. So you know what we're trying to build for our life. I've been saying this too. With Saturn, it's all about escapism, but Saturn being conjunct, I mean, being trine in the Sun in Scorpio, the decision comes down to, are you going to do things based upon fear, which is going to look like you run into those quick fixes for dopamine, or the instant gratification things, the you know, shortcut, trying to backstab people before they stab you. You know what I'm saying? Are you going to be trying to be too strategic, or are you going to allow Scorpio that rawness that Scorpio really needs? Scorpio is really encouraging everybody to tap into that rawness, because when you deeply connected to self, that rawness is what keep you protected. You being genuinely you is always going to be keep you protected as much more than you think. That vulnerability always going to hit harder in reality. It might make you feel uncomfortable at first, but when you get it out, and you know, you still got to be mindful of where you at. But when you moving with just being genuine, and you moving with that vulnerability, you develop so much strength in areas that other people don't, they lack the courage and the even self-awareness to reach. And you go so much further in life, in real life, than you can even imagine and conceive. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, again, don't let the fear overtake your ability to tap into something that could be transformative for your life, others around you, and your, you know, your actual goals. And like I was saying in the beginning, I understand why the anxiety might be creeping up, and why it might be very scary outside. You happen, but this is where faith comes in. This is where faith is really required. But it's not just blind faith, it's you actively making it a practice to trust yourself more, and to move into the world in a way in which, again, you allow that rawness to lead the way. You allow that trust, not trust, but you allow that vulnerability to lead you to where you are meant to be physically. You know what I'm saying? And it takes your spirit having that awareness to lead your body, even though your body might react, because your body gonna go through all the fear. Your body gonna always try to jerk you in the direction of, wait, hold on, let's be safe here. Wait, hold on, let's go here. The body always gonna try to convince you, because the body's connected to the mind. It's always gonna try to convince you something's wrong, something is a threat. We can't do something. We wait, hold on. Before we do this, we gotta. before we do that, we got to do this. Hold on, I don't know what that's going to look like. That's all the mind, like that's what the mind going to do. But again, you a spirit first in a body who created this mind. So two things got to happen. One, you always got to have the broader sense to be able to go through these things and move through them without the fear of immediate danger that again is fabricated based upon how that mind was built. And two, you're going to have to rewire your brain to start thinking more in alignment. It's like rewire your brain, rebuild your brain, understand what your spirit sees. The mind, the body is probably never going to fully understand what the spirit can see, but that's what you do. You here to build minds. So you have to strengthen your mind by rebuilding it, breaking it down, rebuilding it. And a lot of times people skip over that part and they just kind of be in this loop of having faith and then getting lost in la la land, distracted by what the body needs, and then do what the body needs, and then be crying and praying and you're like, why? Hey, can I please? It's like, don't get caught in that loop where you forget you are a spirit who built minds. So you have to break your mind down every now and then and rebuild it to update it. It's almost like updating firmware to be more in alignment with what truly going in life. And I hope that was helpful. Make sure y'all tap in, send an email to 717 conference.info@gmail.com to get linked up with the depth of divine feminine online courses. You know what I'm saying? We doing Each One Teach One, which is an online community-based teaching program that will eventually be in real life physically. You know what I'm saying? So we try to get as many students as possible. So if you are a woman or a mother, please tap in. You know what I'm saying? It's very brilliant minds coming together, sharing their experiences, building on, just things that, hey, building on a myriad of topics, but mainly based in spirituality and mental health and helping everybody be better individuals to make the world a better place. You know what I'm saying? And y'all already know what's up. Okay, now the comments is here. Dang, okay. Real talk. Shout out to everybody in the comment section. I don't know why YouTube did that. Shout out to West Dakota. He said letting you know your life is choppy. Oh, okay. Yeah, what you throwing down. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know why they be chopping me up, man. They crazy. He said shout out to you, man. Shout out to Pedro. Shout out to Mooney Mercury up in here. He said the ego. Yeah, he said totally feeling the transmutation. You gotta accept it coming to you more. The more you give to it and make space for the transmutation, the more you will transmute. Sometimes you have to give in order to receive. Right. You have to surrender in order to even, you know what I'm saying? You have to surrender. You could fight it all you want, but the current gonna take you. You know what I'm saying? And that is, I think, just it's gonna move you, and you gotta understand and trust yourself to be along the way. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, shout out to all y'all. I hope y'all have a beautiful day. Shout out to all the Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Ascendants. And yeah, we will be back talking about the Moon and Leo. So just remember, again, expression, but don't let that fear keep. Much love. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.